The massive space station called Stellar Prime floated silently in the dark void between stars. Its gleaming metal walls stretched for miles in every direction. Inside, thousands of people worked for Nexus Industries, one of the most powerful companies in human space. The station served as their main headquarters, a symbol of human success among the stars. Lisa Kane pushed her serving cart down the polished hallway of the executive floor. The wheels made soft clicking sounds on the expensive tiles. She wore the standard gray uniform of station service staff, her dark hair pulled back in a simple bun. Most people barely noticed her as she moved through the corridors. To them, she was just another worker doing her job, but Lisa was much more than she appeared. Hidden beneath her humble uniform was one of the brightest minds on the station. She held a degree in astrophysics from Earth University and could speak 17 different languages. Yet here she was, serving coffee and cleaning tables for executives who made more money in a day than she earned in a year. The reason was simple and unfair. In the corporate world of Nexus Industries, your background mattered more than your brain. Lisa had grown up poor in the outer colonies. She had no family connections, no wealthy sponsors, and no powerful friends. Despite her brilliant mind, the company kept her in the lowest jobs. They never bothered to look at her real qualifications. Today was different, though. The entire executive floor buzzed with nervous energy. Through the large windows, Lisa could see sleek alien ships docked at the station. The Zephyrians had come to meet with the human leaders. This was the biggest diplomatic event in human history. The Zephyrians were unlike any alien race humans had encountered before. They looked somewhat like tall, graceful birds with silver feathers and large, intelligent eyes. But their most amazing feature was their ability to communicate. They could speak in ways that changed based on complex mathematical patterns. Their language shifted and evolved in real time, making it nearly impossible for humans to understand. Lisa stopped her cart near the main conference room. Through the glass doors, she could see CEO Marcus Webb pacing back and forth. He was a large man with graying hair and an expensive suit. His face looked red with stress and anger. Around the table sat his top executives, all looking equally worried. "This is a disaster," Webb shouted at his translation team. "We've spent millions on your equipment and expertise. How can you only understand half of what they're saying?" Dr. Helen Torres, the head linguist, looked exhausted. "Sir, their language is unlike anything we've studied. It's not just words and grammar. Their communication patterns are based on quantum probability mathematics. Our computers can't keep up with the constant changes." Webb slammed his hand on the table. "We're talking about trade deals worth billions of credits. The future of human expansion depends on this meeting. And you're telling me we can't even talk to them properly?" Lisa had been listening to the Zephyrian transmissions for weeks through the station's communication systems. During her breaks, she studied their patterns on her personal tablet. She had started to notice something the official translators had missed. The Zephyrians weren't just speaking randomly. Their language changes followed specific rules. Based on emotional context and logical progression, she had developed her own translation method by combining her knowledge of 17 languages with advanced mathematical principles she'd learned in her astrophysics studies. The patterns were beautiful once you understood them. Like music mixed with mathematics, through the glass, Lisa watched as another message came through from the Zephyrian ships. The translation team scrambled to decode it, but their faces showed confusion and frustration. Lisa could read the message clearly in her mind. The Zephyrians were asking about human cultural values and social structures. They wanted to know how humans treated their most intelligent members. The irony was not lost on her. Here she was, one of the most capable linguists on the station, serving coffee while the official experts failed at the most important translation. Jobinhumanhistory.web continued his angry rant, unaware that the solution to his problem stood just outside his conference room, holding a serving tray and wearing a gray uniform that made her invisible to his corporate eyes. The emergency meeting had been going on for 3 hours. Lisa refilled coffee cups and cleared empty plates while the executives argued about their translation problems. The Zephyrian ships waited patiently outside the station, but their messages were becoming more complex by the hour. Marcus Webb stood at the head of the long table, his face getting redder with each failed attempt at communication. The best translation computers in human space sat humming in the corner, their screens showing error messages and incomplete sentences. "Read it again," Webb demanded, pointing at the latest Zephyrian message on the main screen. Dr. Torres cleared her throat nervously. The computer translates it as, "Greetings, Skywater people of Thinking Metal Home. We bring star knowledge for trade connection of mutual growing trust, but that doesn't make complete sense." "It sounds like broken child speak," Webb muttered. "How are we supposed to negotiate billion credit deals when we can't even understand basic sentences?" Lisa paused while refilling water glasses. She could read the message perfectly. The Zephyrians were actually saying, "Greetings to the ambitious humans of the technological station. We offer advanced knowledge in exchange for establishing long-term partnership based on mutual respect and understanding." The translation computers were failing because they tried to convert each word directly, instead of understanding the emotional and mathematical context that gave the words their real meaning. It was like trying to understand poetry by translating only the individual letters. Executive Vice President John Miller shook his head in frustration. "Maybe we should postpone the meeting until we can get better equipment from Earth." "Absolutely not," Webb snapped. "The Zephyrians might leave. This is our only chance to secure their technology. We need solutions now, not excuses." Lisa finished filling the water pitcher and quietly moved toward the door. But as she passed behind Dr. Torres, she couldn't help herself. In a soft voice, she said, "The message is about establishing respectful partnership. They're testing our ability to understand deeper meaning, not just surface words." The room fell completely silent. Every head turned to look at her. Lisa felt her heart racing as she realized she had spoken out loud. She had broken the unwritten rule that service staff should remain invisible and silent. During executive meetings, Webb's eyes narrowed as he stared at her. "Excuse me? Did our coffee girl just try to correct our professional linguists?" Lisa felt heat rising in her cheeks, but she stood her ground. "I was just suggesting that maybe the translation needs to account for their mathematical communication patterns." A few executives chuckled. Webb's expression grew colder. He walked slowly around the table until he stood directly in front of her. His voice dripped with sarcasm as he spoke. Well, it seems we have a genius hiding in our kitchen staff." He turned to address the room, his voice getting louder. "Did you all hear that? Our little server here thinks she knows better than our team of expert linguists with advanced degrees and years of experience." More laughter rippled through the room. Lisa felt small and exposed, but she also felt angry. These people were failing at something she could do easily, yet they mocked her for trying to help. Webb crossed his arms and looked down at her with obvious contempt. "Tell me, what's your name?" "Lisa Kane, sir." "Well, Lisa Kane, since you seem to think you're so much smarter than our professional translation team." Webb paused dramatically, enjoying the attention from his executives. "If you're so smart, then translate." The words hung in the air like a challenge thrown down in an ancient duel. The entire room watched to see what would happen next. Some executives were still smiling, expecting entertainment from watching the presumptuous server get embarrassed. Dr. Torres looked uncomfortable. "Sir, perhaps we should focus on the actual work rather than ... "No," Webb interrupted, his eyes never leaving Lisa's face. "I want to hear what our brilliant server has to say. Please enlighten us with your superior knowledge." Lisa looked around the room at all the powerful faces staring at her. These people controlled the fate of human expansion into space. They held the future of her species in their hands. And they were failing because their pride prevented them from accepting help from someone they considered beneath them. She took a deep breath and made a decision that would change everything. Lisa set down her water pitcher and looked directly at Marcus Webb. The silence in the room was so complete that she could hear the soft humming of the air systems. Every executive waited to see what the server would do when faced with such an impossible challenge. I accept, Lisa said quietly. Webb blinked in surprise. He had expected her to apologize and run away. Instead, she stood there calmly, meeting his gaze without fear. This was not going according to his plan. You accept? Webb laughed, but it sounded forced. Do you have any idea what you're saying? These are alien communications that have stumped our best experts. Lisa walked over to the main computer terminal. May I use this? Dr. Torres started to object, but Webb held up his hand. By all means. Let's see what our genius server can do. He turned to the other executives with a smirk. This should be entertaining. Lisa's fingers moved quickly across the keyboard. She had been working on her translation program for months during her breaks, using the station's basic computer systems. Now she uploaded her work to the main translation computer. What exactly are you doing? Asked Executive Miller, leaning forward with curiosity. I'm installing a new translation protocol, Lisa explained as she worked. The current system tries to translate word by word, but Zephyrian language doesn't work that way. Their words change meaning based on mathematical patterns and emotional context. The executives exchanged skeptical glances. Webb rolled his eyes. Mathematical patterns, emotional context? That sounds like science fiction nonsense. Lisa finished uploading her program and turned to face the room. The Zephyrians use quantum linguistic principles. Their language exists in multiple states at once until the context collapses it into specific meaning. Think of it like... She paused, searching for a simple explanation, like music. The same note can sound happy or sad depending on what other notes surround it. That's ridiculous, Webb scoffed. Language is language. Words mean what they mean. A new message from the Zephyrian ships appeared on the screen. The old translation system immediately began working on it, producing its usual confused output. Happy sad flying beings request understanding confusion about metal home leaders. The executives groaned. It was the same meaningless gibberish they had been getting all day. Lisa activated her new program. The screen flickered as her translation algorithm analyzed the message using quantum linguistic principles. Within seconds, clear text appeared. The Zephyrian Council expresses concern about the apparent disconnect between the stated values of human leadership and their actual treatment of intellectual resources within their organization. The room fell silent. The message was not only clear, but also surprisingly direct and intelligent. Dr. Torres stared at the screen in amazement. How did you do that? I studied their communication patterns for weeks, Lisa explained. I noticed that they embed emotional and mathematical markers within their language structure. Once you account for these markers, the translation becomes straightforward. Another message arrived. The old system produced, question metal flying home why? Smart people serve water food to less smart people? Lisa's system translated it as, query, why does your technological society assign highly intelligent individuals to menial service roles while placing less capable individuals in positions of authority? The color drained from Webb's face. The Zephyrians weren't just making random conversation. They were asking pointed questions about human social structure. And somehow they seemed to know about Lisa's situation. Executive Sarah Davis spoke up nervously. Are they asking about our corporate hierarchy? Lisa nodded grimly. It appears they've been observing us more closely than we realized. Another message flashed on the screen. This time, Lisa's translation was even more direct. The individual currently operating the translation protocol demonstrates cognitive abilities far superior to those exhibited by the designated leadership. This discrepancy requires explanation. Webb's jaw tightened. They're talking about you? Yes, Lisa said simply. They are. The implications hit everyone at once. The aliens hadn't just come for trade negotiations. They had been studying human society and had somehow identified Lisa as an example of wasted potential. The meeting wasn't just about business anymore. It was about how humans treated their own people. Webb looked around the room at his executives, then back at Lisa. For the first time since she had known him, he looked genuinely worried rather than just angry. What else do they want to know? He asked quietly. Lisa's fingers moved across the keyboard again. I think we're about to find out. Lisa's translation program worked perfectly as more messages came through from the Zephyrian ships. Each new communication revealed something that made the human executives more uncomfortable. The aliens weren't just visiting for simple trade talks, they had a much bigger purpose. The next message is coming through now, Lisa announced. Watching the screen carefully, the Zephyrian text appeared, followed quickly by her translation. We have observed your species for 12 standard cycles. Your technological advancement shows promise, but your social structures reveal concerning patterns of intellectual waste and hierarchical oppression. Webb's face went pale. 12 cycles? They've been watching us for 12 years? Another message followed immediately. The purpose of this contact is not commercial exchange. We are conducting final evaluation for potential inclusion in the Galactic Consciousness Network. Executive Miller leaned forward, confused. What's the Galactic Consciousness Network? Lisa's hands trembled slightly as she read the next part of the message. It's a collective of advanced species that share knowledge and technology across the galaxy. They're deciding whether humanity deserves to join them. The room erupted in excited whispers. This was far beyond anything they had imagined. The Galactic Consciousness Network represented access to technologies that could advance human civilization by thousands of years. It was the chance of a lifetime for the entire species, but the next message made everyone stop talking. Current evaluation status. Failing. Human society demonstrates systematic suppression of intellectual potential based on arbitrary social classifications. This behavior pattern is incompatible with network membership requirements. Webb grabbed the edge of the table so hard his knuckles turned white. They're going to reject us? Lisa continued translating as new messages appeared. Network membership requires species that recognize and nurture intelligence regardless of individual background, social status, or economic position. Societies that waste intellectual resources pose dangers to collective advancement. Dr. Torres spoke up desperately. Can we tell them we're willing to change? That we can fix our social problems? Lisa shook her head as she read the next message. They say that empty promises mean nothing. They need to see actual proof that humans value intelligence over social hierarchy. What kind of proof? Webb demanded. The answer came in the next Zephyrian communication. We have identified a test case within your current facility. Individual. Lisa Kane possesses intellectual capabilities far exceeding those of designated leadership, yet is assigned to menial labor due to social prejudice. Her treatment by your organization will determine humanity's worthiness for network inclusion. Every eye in the room turned to Lisa. She felt like the weight of the entire human race had suddenly landed on her shoulders. The fate of billions of people now depended on how one corporation treated a single server. Webb's voice was barely a whisper. They're using you as a test? Lisa nodded slowly. It appears so. Another message flashed on screen. If human leadership can recognize, acknowledge, and properly utilize the intellectual resources currently being wasted due to prejudicial systems, network membership remains possible. If not, humanity will be classified as intellectually destructive and excluded permanently. The implications were staggering. Humanity's entire future among the stars depended on this moment. The Zephyrians had chosen Nexus Industries specifically because they represented the worst aspects of human corporate culture. They had been watching Lisa's situation as an example of how humans treated their brightest minds. Executive Davis asked the question everyone was thinking, what happens if we fail their test? Lisa translated the final part of the message. Failed. Species are quarantined to their home systems. No further contact or technological assistance will be provided. Humanity would remain isolated until their social evolution reaches acceptable levels, which typically requires several thousand years. The silence that followed was deafening. Webb looked around at his executives, seeing the fear in their faces. Everything they had worked for, everything humanity hoped to achieve in space, could be lost because of how they treated one brilliant woman who happened to wear a server's uniform? What do they want us to do? Webb asked quietly. Lisa's fingers moved across the keyboard one more time. They want to meet with me directly. They're giving humanity one chance to prove we can change. But I have to be the one to speak for our species. Webb stared at her for a long moment, realizing that the server he had mocked just minutes ago now held the future of human civilization in her hands. The main screen in the conference room suddenly changed. Instead of text messages, a live video connection opened with the Zephyrian ships. The executives gasped as they saw their first real alien face. The Zephyrian who appeared was tall and graceful, with silver feathers that seemed to shimmer with their own light. Large, intelligent eyes looked directly at Lisa through the screen. Greetings, Lisa Kane. The alien said in perfect English. Its voice was musical and calm. I am Council Speaker Zyron. We have been observing you for many months. Lisa felt her heart racing, but managed to keep her voice steady. You've been watching me specifically? Indeed. Your situation represents a pattern we have seen throughout human society. Brilliant minds trapped by artificial barriers created by fear and prejudice. Zyron's large eyes seem shifted uncomfortably in his chair. The alien's words cut deep because they were completely true. Zyron continued speaking directly to Lisa, as if the executives weren't even in the room. You have taught yourself 17 languages, developed quantum linguistic theory, and solved translation problems that stumped teams of specialists. Yet your society values you less than those who inherited wealth or social connections. That's just how things work, Lisa said quietly. I didn't have the right background or connections to get better jobs. Precisely, Zyron said with what might have been sadness. This is why humanity fails our evaluation. True intelligence cannot flourish in societies that suppress it based on meaningless social categories. Executive Miller spoke up nervously. But surely you can see we're willing to change. We recognize Lisa's abilities now. Zyron's attention shifted to him, and Miller seemed to shrink shrink under that alien gaze. Recognition forced by outside pressure means nothing. How many other brilliant minds do you waste every day? How many potential discoveries die in poverty while mediocrity rules from positions of inherited privilege? The alien was right, and everyone in the room knew it. Lisa thought about all her coworkers in the service departments. How many of them had hidden talents that nobody ever bothered to discover? How many great ideas were lost because they came from people wearing the wrong uniforms or speaking with the wrong accents? Zyron turned back to Lisa. The galactic consciousness network consists of species that have learned to identify and nurture intelligence wherever it appears. We share technologies that could solve your energy problems, cure diseases, and open doorways to distant galaxies. But such power cannot be trusted to societies that waste their greatest resource. Their greatest resource Dr. Torres asked. Intelligent. Minds, Zyron replied simply. Technology means nothing without the minds to use it wisely. A species that throws away brilliance because of social prejudice will eventually destroy itself, no matter what tools we give them. Lisa felt the weight of countless human futures pressing down on her. What exactly do you want from me? We want you to make a choice, Zyron said. We are prepared to share our advanced technologies with humanity, but only under specific conditions. You would become the guardian and distributor of this knowledge. You would decide who receives it and how it gets used. Webb's face went red. You're talking about giving unlimited power to a server? Zyron's gaze shifted to Webb with what looked like contempt. We're talking about giving appropriate responsibility to the most qualified individual present. Your own evaluation system has failed so completely that you placed your most capable person in your least important job. The alien's words hung in the air like a physical blow. Webb had spent his entire career climbing the corporate ladder, believing that his position proved his worth. Now, an advanced alien species was telling him that the woman he had mocked was more qualified to represent humanity than he was. The choice is simple, Zion continued, looking back at Lisa. Accept our offer and help humanity evolve beyond its current limitations, or watch your species remain trapped in a cycle of wasted potential and eventual self-destruction. Lisa looked around the room at the faces of the most powerful humans. She knew they all waited for her answer, knowing that their futures depended on